this is where shit hits the fan, excuse my language. The statement of Untanzi was read, and let me just say, child, it's crazy business.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party. Pink felt like I'm ready to bend. I'm a 10, so I pull a next 10. Like Gabby, Stacey, Pinky. All of the Barbies is pretty. Damn, all of the Barbies is bad.
Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Nogwazi Ntombela, also known as Wazi Bear on all social media platforms. Do subscribe, be a part of this family, and if you're returning subby, welcome back, darling. Now guys, the long-awaited ruling from Judge Rata is officially in. It is a Friday today, so I'm going to start off with the proceedings for the 14th of March, where Judge Rata was meant to give us his ruling with regards to the admissibility of the confessions. Okay guys, so if you're not following this trial, we have just completed the trial within a trial, whereby the admissibility of the confessions for accused number 1 and 2, Judge Rata needed to make a ruling. So we adjourned on Monday for him to make his ruling. He says it's a ruling, not a judgment. So it can be changed based on the evidence that is led in the main trial. So basically the 14th came. And guys, in all honesty, based on the evidence that was laid with regards to the rights of the accused being violated, I honestly thought that these confessions would not be used or would not be admissible. However, there is a large part of me was actually hoping that these confessions be used, because I wanted to hear what is in those confessions. And indeed, Judge Rata made his ruling, and he says that these confessions were taken freely and voluntarily, so therefore the confessions are admissible, which means that we will then proceed with the main trial, where the confessions would now be read. So basically the witnesses that came in the trial within a trial would come into the main trial and basically read on record what is in the confessions. So those were the proceedings basically for Thursday. Judge Rata gave his ruling, and we then took an adjournment until today, which is Friday the 15th of March, where we would now hear what these confessions actually contain. So at the beginning of proceedings today, Baloyi basically just says that they would like that the evidence that was led in the trial within a trial basically be infused into the main trial, and basically touch on the things that were redacted from the confessions, and then cross-examination will continue. Indeed, that was so. The first person that they called back onto the stand was Colonel Rapadu, who was responsible for taking confessions for accused number 2. So remember, accused number 2 made 2 confessions. The first confession he made to Rapadu on the 19th of June, which is just 3 days after he was arrested, and he then later on the 24th of June in 2020 then made another confession to Magistrate Kronia. Now, this is where shit hits the fan, excuse my language, because guys, considering the fact that we've already listened to witnesses who were inside the house, and we've listened to evidence, and evidence was led, they were cross-examined, we now know certain facts or certain versions with regards to what happened in the house. And what I really was excited about when the ruling was given that these confessions would be admissible, I was really looking forward to how they corroborate or how they are interlinked, basically. So what the accused say happened and what the people in the house say happened should interlink somehow, right? So the statement of Untanzi was read, and let me just say, child, it's crazy business, because the first thing that I picked up on, especially with Ntanzi's confession, is that firstly, we've had evidence laid in court that Ntanzi had requested unpaid leave from as early as July in 2020 for October. That is basically during the time in which the incident happened, where Senzo was killed on that Sunday. So he had requested his unpaid leave in July. So basically almost 3 months before the actual date, he had requested unpaid leave. Now, the funny thing is that in his confession, he says that he received a call mid-October to say there's a job that needs to be done. So, which means Ntanzi couldn't have predicted that he'd receive a call in October for a hit on Senzo Meyiwa if he had already requested leave from work. Make it make sense. Anyway, so that is the first contradiction that I see. And then he goes on, to tell how he received a call. There were 2 people involved in the call. He could hear one of the other people in the background, and he was basically speaking to, let me just get my notes quickly. Okay, so he received a call from Ziseni, and Umapisa was apparently, Ziseni Mapisa, and Carlos was apparently nearby. Carlos being accused number 3, Ziseni being accused number 4. So he received a call from accused number 4 saying that there's a job, and Carlos was apparently speaking in the background, so he knows he was there. And he then says, on the day that the incident took place, this is what went down. So in the confession, he says that he went to Vosloorus. He met with Moses Biya, which is accused number 1. He met with Unkani, which is accused number 5. And then later on, they were joined by Carlos and Mapisa. So now this means that all 5 accused are in the statement, right? And then he then says the instruction was for them to go kill Senzo, and the instruction was given by Kelly Kumalo. Okay, now each person and what they contributed to this actual alleged crime is that Nkani, which is accused number 5, was allegedly the driver. And he says that he was driving a silver Polo. Now, if you remember from evidence from before, we have heard the story of a silver Polo. So this is basically in line with that. So Nkani was the driver. Muzi was there, which is accused number 1. He apparently played the role of being the guard by the gate, right? And then Carlos and accused number 2 went into the house. Now, he says when they got into the house, Carlos then says, Pansi, imali nama phone, which basically means lie down and bring money and phones, right? He says that in the process of that, apparently Senzo didn't want to give the cell phone. They started fighting. Before they started fighting, he says that he himself, accused number 2, started taking cell phones from the people in the house. He started taking cell phones from the people in the house, and then he took money from a money jar. Now, if you remember the evidence that has been given so far, there were no talks about any money being stolen. There were no talks of cell phones, plural, being taken. It was only one cell phone, but according to this confession, he took cell phones from the people in the house. Now, that is the second contradiction. And then another thing that he says is that when Carlos fought with Senzo, so basically Senzo refused to give the phone, they started fighting. Carlos shot 2 shots, one of which hit Senzo. He ran away, accused number 2, ran away, left Carlos in the house. And as he ran out, Mapisa, who is accused number 4, ran back into the house, which is different to what we've heard so far, because so far we've heard that Longwe ran out. So if Longwe ran out of the house, why did Mapisa not see Longwe? Because Mapisa was keeping guard outside. Anyway, bottom line is that they ran away. They didn't run away. They all got into the getaway car, which was a silver Polo. Now, from Tabi Singh's evidence, Tabi Singh is the neighbor of the Kumalos, who was allegedly outside when everything happened, and she was parked outside sitting in her car. She saw people running down the streets. There's no way where she speaks about a car or a silver Polo anywhere in her testimony. So those were the interesting facts about accused number two's confession to Rapharu, and he basically says that he was initially paid 15,000 before the job was done, and then afterwards he was then paid 30,000 rand, and then he was unhappy with the payment that he received, and there were talks, or there was going to be a meeting with regards to this. So he basically then goes back to Rustenburg, and the job is basically done. Another interesting thing that we learned today for the first time is that accused number one allegedly had food on the day that he went to make his confession to Rapharu. Now, according to the evidence that was led before, Rapharu received Ndanzi in the early hours of the morning and then finished taking his statement about 3 hours later. However, he now says no, Ndanzi received food. On the day he received 4 slices of brown bread with tea, which is the food that they'll give to the prisoners at the police station. Now, the first question under cross-examination was along the lines of, if a person was to receive food, that person would be in the OB books of that particular police station. So he would need to be counted as a person who's inside the cells. So we don't have any sort of evidence that shows any OB books from Morocco police station to say Ndanzi was actually even at that police station, which is crazy business. A very good question. I'm not going to take too long with the cross-examination, but the issue of Ndanzi knowing how to read and write came up during cross-examination as well, and also the issue of interpretation. Okay, so that was basically the evidence of Rapharu. We picked up the contradictions there, and at this point I was just like, okay, I'm glad these confessions were actually admissible, or were ruled to be admissible, because now we're seeing contradictions, not knowing that it would go downhill even furthermore from there, because the next witness that Baloyi called is Colonel Mboto, who took the confession for accused number one. Now let's get into his confession. Right, so this confession firstly says that the incident happened on a Saturday. Now, if you remember, Senzo died on a Sunday, so that's the first issue, that the dates were wrong. And this confession then says that accused number one received a call from Marco Buthelezi, who was with Makimba Buthelezi, right? And when he received the call, he says that it was regarding a job that they needed to do, pretty much the same story as accused number one. And he says that they traveled in a white polo. So now, at the moment, based on these two confessions, we have a silver polo, we have a white polo, right? And we have phone calls on both sides about a hit, right? He also says that, you know, the hit that was made was for Senzo, and it was made by Kelly. And they talk about the money that was offered, which is 100,000. He says there's 100,000 that was offered, and Umarko at the time had dreadlocks, and Umakimba had a red cap on. And then they also spoke about a traditional healer, that they'll go to a traditional healer from Swaziland who'd be able to sort them out so that they're able to do the job with no issues. And the traditional healer would charge them 5,000 rand for the muti that they're going to use, the voodoo that they're going to use for the job, right? Okay, now he says that they obviously arrived at the scene, and he says that Makimbi in the white polo stopped at the corner just nearby Kelly Kumalo's house, and they walked. Now, who are the people who are walking? It is Marco, it is Muzi, and it is Makimba. Keep it in mind that Marco is not the same person that Ndanzi mentioned in his confession. Makimba is not the same person that Ndanzi mentioned in his confession, right? And he says that when they got into, okay, so the plan was that he would stay by the gate. So he stayed by the gate to keep guard. And according to Ndanzi's version, Muzi was the person who kept guard, right? But according to Muzi's statement, he then says the people that went into the house were Marco and Makimba, 2 people, not Danzi, not accused number 2. Right, now let's get into the details of inside the house. Now these details, guys, already, because Muzi was not in the house, are what? Hearsay evidence, because he says that the people that went into the house told him that there were 3 people in the house. It was Senzo and 2 ladies. When they got into the house, a fight broke loose, and he does say that they were gonna pretend as though it was a robbery. So they got inside, 3 people were in the house. Kelly apparently ran into the bathroom or ran into the bedroom, and a fight broke loose, shots were fired, and then they left. Now, according to this confession, there was nothing stolen in the house, nothing taken, no cell phones, no money, nothing. And there was only 1 gun that entered the house, right? So now we've got 2 versions. We've got a white polo, a silver polo, 5 guys, 3 guys, different guys. And the funny thing is, Marco, in Sibia's confession, apparently died. He apparently died. He was in a shootout with the police and he died. Makimbi, on the other hand, is allegedly in prison. So we've got 2 versions, or 2 confessions that are totally contradictory to each other. Okay, so basically cross-examination of Mboto took place, where Umgomezulu asked some really interesting questions, especially with regards to the fact that Marco is dead. Therefore, he can't be called. This is all hearsay evidence. The dates are wrong and all of that. So it was a very interesting day in court. I feel like the courtrooms were breaking down, literally crumbling on the state's case. But I cannot wait to hear what the confessions that were made to Magistrate Krenia entail, because I feel like after the nonsense that they put in the first confession, they tried to make up for it in the second confession. And I can bet you 100 Rand right now that the confessions to Krenia will have a little more detail, which will be in line with what the other witnesses have said so far. So it has been an interesting week, even though we only had 3 days of court, Monday, Thursday, and Friday. But yeah, we will see. We will see how the cookie crumbles. I will see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and if you can, please super thanks me down below. Anyway, bye.